areas in the priority state experience the least burden associated with tobacco use and cancer burden?
So for my research, I looked at 6 priority states and West Virginia. So among the 6 priority states, we had Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. And within those states, I selected specific regions or groups of counties that had their adult smoking prevalences were higher than the state average. And then in Alabama and Mississippi, I was looking at economically deprived areas that are already grouped together as regions, the Alabama Black Belt and the Mississippi Delta. So within those regions, those are areas where the tobacco use and cancer outcomes were much higher than around the state. And even within those areas, you can see different pockets and different neighborhoods have different access to services. So, for example, in Iowa is a good example of a state where a lot of the counties, they didn't really fall within a specific region, but they were all really spread out throughout the state. And there was no clear pattern as to maybe, what all these states really have in common, other than, okay, they're all really rural, they have a lot of people living in them, but they're really just concentrated to just a few cities, and the majority of people, if you look at the percentages, the major metropolitan cities only had about, 0.8% of the total population. So to me, that indicates that the majority of people are spread out in very rural places. And the places that were very rural and didn't have a lot of access to services, they had very poor outcomes. So in terms of even poverty, looking at education and the tobacco use and cancer outcomes, those were much worse than when you're looking at somewhere like a bigger city within Iowa that did not have as bad as rates around cancer or access to services. Tobacco use was still high just because that might be something looking at the culture within Iowa itself, looking at the people and the activities and things there are to do. That's something where across the board tobacco use is really high, but in terms of places that were generally doing off more well than other places in Iowa, the cities were doing great, but the rural areas were generally poorer in health.